Thank you for joining us on Wednesdays.
It has been a great experience.
We've analysed, we've segmented, we've priced, and we've positioned.
Sliced and diced.
Stop the silos.
Gave practical advice.
Went all business and leisure.
We talked a lot about recovery best practices. Now it's time to put revenue management back into focus.
Let us help you become future-proof hotelier.
We will share our best practices and advice with you, starting from the beginning.
Revenue hacks, back to basics.
Revenue hacks, back to basics.
Revenue hacks, back to basics.
Revenue hacks, back to the basics.
Revenue hacks, back to basics.
Hi, hello. Welcome to our number 14th of revenue hacks. So today we're going to talk about revenue blending into digital, or what is digital and why is it so important to understand that a little bit more for revenue people. But first, let me introduce to the panel. So today we have the four wonderful ladies that you already know probably, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit. Khristina, you want to start?
Hi, everybody. My name is Khristina Ridge. I'm a group revenue manager for a hotel company here in the UK and Ireland, and I'm still coming to you from sunny Waterford. And it's lovely to be here for episode 14.
Olga, maybe?
Hello, my name is Olga Sommer. I'm a revenue specialist with experience working in a luxury market as well as large international hotel chains. Welcome.
And last but not least, Ali.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Ali Northfield, Managing Director of Revenue by Design. We provide automated solutions and revenue outsource for the revenue management community. Thank you.
Great, thank you all. I'm a founder of my Optimizer Consulting, which is helping hotels optimize revenue and processes. All right, so let's get started. Please feel free to ask any question that you have on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you're listening to us, and we'll do our best to reply to all of your questions today. So I think, why is this topic coming? Because originally we talked about the role of revenue managers and the definition of revenue management, etc., and the fact that maybe it shouldn't be called revenue management, and what else should be included into that. And the big topic has always been like, oh, digital is so important, and revenue managers should always keep digital in mind. But what does it mean exactly? What do you think? How would you define the relationship between digital and revenue? Any thoughts on that, ladies?
I think for me, I think the requirement is to look at the digital channel as an additional channel that's available to you at any one time. So we have typically the other channels that you use as sources of business, and the digital one really needs to be integrated with the rest of the channels that you use. I think the challenge for a lot of revenue managers is that that there's always been the referencing of digital as a marketing tool, when in fact it is one of the more specific transactional based opportunities available to a revenue manager. If you don't have that available to you and you don't have that access to that data, then you really are losing out on a huge level of opportunity. Not least of which is the fact that if you have the two strategies running separately, and there's no interrelation of the two, then the likelihood is that you're going to find that one strategy at any one time might well conflict with another. So that's really, from my point of view, the reason why revenue managers really do need to get a handle on it. I think the final thing to say on that would be, for me, is there are certain tools that you can use as you come into day of arrival, and all of which have different roles to play at any one particular time into that day of arrival. And I think this is one of those channels that you can really turn on and off, and is hugely powerful if you can get it right. So that it's a hugely positive thing to work with.
I have to agree with Ali on that as well. And I think one thing revenue managers need to be very focused on is that they need to be engaged with this type of tool as well. It's not a case that you just put a post up and you just pray for the best, and a book now link and you pray for the best. You actually need to be engaged with the customer, actively posting on social media and actively pushing that book now, rather than actually just leaving it to sit there, because it just goes stale. And if you have a hotel that's opening next week, and you've only posted on the 6th of July, that's where you run into issues, because your social media is stale. The chance of someone booking your property then is stale, because it looks like you're not engaged with a guest. So, having that automated message, and if you get a direct message, is important, but also try to respond to them within working hours, obviously, or when you can, because it just gives that personalized feel with the guest, and shows the guest why they should book with you and not with an alternative method, or even click on that book now button to go through direct to your website. And I think we need to be very mindful as well, as Ali said, about analytics, because this is where now revenue managers more than ever are able to deep dive into more information. And the more information we have on the transactions that are occurring, we're able to run better strategies, which is so important in this ever-changing world at the moment.
Khristina, if I may add to this, for me, it's more digital is anything to do with customer service and customer journey, really, and also personalization, because very often I do believe that it is part of the kind of revenue overall commercial strategy should be. Now, there are so much information on us and so many websites and how the hotels are advertising everywhere, but it's very often still not personalized. Hotels have still very much kind of websites are created, by head offices, and it doesn't attract the customer to book. So, there is more about, I think, said about customer journey and personalization, and there are so many great tools that can be used and enhanced and overall experience. And yes, it is a booking tool as well.
Okay, so how is it really helping actually? How do you use digital? Because that's such a big word. Are we talking about the guest journey? Are we talking about the tools? Are we talking about the actual person that is doing digital in your company? That's kind of blurry sometimes. So what are, would you have any examples of when you had a join forces and try to look at how digital has been helping in some of your properties? Or could have helped actually, and maybe we've unused them.
I like the ways they could have helped. I think for us especially, in our company, it's a one shoe fits all. So, we're all engaged in digital. The GMs are fantastic. We have one GM who is super at posting on social media and super with the engagements. And you can see that the people that post regularly and reply to her regularly are regular guests who will come direct to us because they know her, they know the property, they know the people, and they get that personalized service. We track that then, because obviously we do always ask our guests on the call, or how did you hear about us, especially new guests, and we'll always find out if it's Facebook or social media. We actually have a social media source so that we're able to track that on our, in our market segments, so that we kind of get an idea on where that source is coming from, rather than just being hotel web or phone direct. It kind of does help on the engagement. I think for me, we always look at the analytical reports that come from Google. So we're able to see what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, there's 3 different methods. You can do paid ads, you can have earned ads, which is essentially like word of mouth. And then you've got, your actual overall stuff that you're doing yourself at the hotel, be it, through digital design tools, or, it's your own media that you're posting. And we would look into that a lot, especially on Facebook and more so Google Analytics rather than Twitter or Instagram. It's not that I haven't bought into Instagram just yet. It's a great way of telling a story. But for me, it's not really a good analytical tool to track that book now compared to what Facebook would bring to us. I love the way Olga kind of looks just there. For me, in this part of the world, a lot of our hotels just aren't on that space just yet, which is unfortunate. I ideally would like to be doing a full guest journey from like optimization on the websites to actually going in, checking in, getting a video of that to kind of entice people a lot more, to be able to get a lot more engagement on that platform. It's just something that we haven't kind of got to yet. But again, just like everyone else in the UK, a lot of our teams have been on furlough, so we actually haven't been able to bring it to the next level, but it is in the works for the future.
Okay, I guess it all depends also on who you're targeting, because like digital word is all the different channels that we talked about, but it's all the different places also on each of the channels. So typically you're looking at Google, and whether it's on a tablet or wherever, you're going to have your meta search, you're going to have your PPC, you're going to have like Google Ads, TripAdvisor, etc. So massive amount of touch points for the guest, basically. And as you said, you will have Instagram, TikTok, etc. Is your hotel really relevant for that? Probably not. So I think, coming back to some of the previous topic that we've said, it's super important to have a proper commercial plan and really trying to know which guests are you targeting, and not trying to go all digital. Well, actually, it may not necessarily be needed for your guests, right?
Yeah, and I think there's certainly from the hotel's point of view, this all stems really from the overall marketing platform of the hotel. So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to produce a campaign for new customer acquisition? Are you trying to produce a campaign for retention? Are you going to be using, as we said, like either social, paid media? All of that really stems from the overall objectives and of what the hotel needs to achieve over any particular time period. And I think really from that, you then identify your target market, how best to attract them, how best to achieve the objectives that you want to achieve. And then just basically test what works. So there is an element of investment in this, definitely. But I think that in terms of the return, particularly now where there are probably the interest in the relationship with hotels is far greater, I think, from consumers than it has been before, certainly within in the sort of immediate post-COVID era. So I think there's opportunity there, definitely. So yeah.
My kind of experience was maybe more working together with marketing team in a larger groups, and that was creating marketing campaigns within 12 weeks. So 3 months where you can actually make some serious impact on the booking. And just as Alice said, it's trying and testing. Obviously, you create a campaign, you see what works, who you're targeting, and then see results. And another campaign, you do something different. There is a lot of try and error, I think. But yeah, maximizing within the booking window, who is the main target audience, and take from there and maximize from there.
I can just imagine Susanne is literally listening to us now going, you should be tracking it. You need to be doing this. Because we all know Susanne is very, very passionate about digital. So Susanne, if you're watching, hi, we miss you today, especially when this is your subject. But I have to agree with Olga, using digital is a great way of filling the gaps, especially last minute, because you do have that quick touch point that you're able to get out to everyone. It's cheap and cheerful to do a lot of digital campaigns, especially on social media now. You're not paying big money for Google ads or pay-per-click or SEO. So that allows for you to do a lot more. Whereas, if you were kind of trying to do something on your own website, it can kind of take a quick some time for the digital team to get it all going. So at least you're able to have something quick and easy to get out to the big bad world. I don't know if Ali agrees with that and how you deal with, your last minute gaps, Ali.
I think there's certainly in terms of, I would put it back to forecasting. And so forecasting into day of arrival, what exactly can we see is happening? Where are those gaps that we need to fill? And then looking at source channel and segment to understand exactly which target markets can we go after and which particular, so I'm going to laugh. Who is that in the background? Sorry.
We have a new recruit in the background today.
E14.
Anyway, that's what I was saying. Filling the gaps.
Filling the gaps. Yeah. Khristina, if I may go back to your comment in terms of that Instagram, you're not tracking, or I don't necessarily see Instagram or other social media. Okay, Facebook, you might be able to track more, but for me, it's like, okay, how much business you're not going to get if you don't utilize that channel, and that's how I see it. So you may not be able to track how much bookings you're getting, but the question is how many you wouldn't get if you didn't have exposure on that platform. That's for me as a consumer. That's a bigger kind of, okay, we may not be able to put the value to it, but actually it's incredibly important that we still do activities. And it's fairly cheap and cheerful way to advertise, no?
It is. And the thing is, it's in the plan at the moment, but as you can imagine, since it's only me that's working at the moment, and I'm on 3 days a week. It's a little bit difficult to try and track everything and go through it, but it is something that we are working for. Like, all the hotels do have pages. I have to say though, you know, Susanne, this is her world, but Susanne actually, her team does a really good job on Instagram, and they tell that story to the guests the whole way through. And I like when hotels do that. It's almost like, you know, you're checking in, you've got that full experience, almost 360, that you can actually put that video onto your website. And I think people now more than ever are looking for that engagement, that they're able to see what the hotels are like, especially because of COVID. Like, the amount of phone calls we're getting, the amount of information we're being requested by people, if they could actually experience the check-in all the way through, or even the guest journey the whole way through, including the F&B side, seeing the staff with their shields or whatever they have in their face, I think that would make it for an easier way of booking and to kind of entice them and engage with them a lot more. I actually have seen some people do it very well, but I actually have seen as well over the time, not many people have done this. And it's kind of like a question of, why haven't you done this? You've already put up your nice little piece saying this is what you're doing in the hotel. You hand out your information to the guests when they check in and explain it. But why aren't you doing it virtually as well and engaging with people a lot more? And this is where digital really does blend into the revenue side. 100%, because you're trying to capture that emotion with the guest, and you're trying to establish that, because you know what, we're all in this little bit uncertain world. Hotels in the UK now are open 12 days, if even. Hotels in Ireland are open 3 weeks, 4 weeks now. And although occupancy has been low in some places, there's other places that are flourishing, which is great to see. And it just goes to show as well the power of staycations when people can't leave. And if we get this right, it might even encourage people for next year. It's no longer just your e-signs with the beach balls. That doesn't really sink in. You know, what's the point of putting a beach ball on an e-sign for a hotel in London? It just defies logic, you know. It really does. And even, you know, ice creams at the moment, you know, some channels out there with ice creams, and you're like, but where's the text? Where's the text to say your call to action instead of these bright colors? You know, you need to really start engaging with people a lot more, and being able to track it for sure is the huge thing, especially for us in the digital world.
And I think it's not always about like, lots of people seem to think that it's only, if I'm a lifestyle hotel and I have a story to say, etc., then yes, it works for me digital. But we've seen, and talking to all of you and giving some examples, we've seen that no, actually, it's not because you're, I don't know, a very branded hotel that you cannot tell a story or actually talk to your guest in a different way. That's kind of important. Like, this personalized guest journey, it's not only for some lifestyle hotels. That's what every guest would need at some specific point in time. I think we talked earlier about how do we use the digital in order to win some customers back, for example. And there are some tools, there are some tips that we can do. How do we use upselling, for example? I know, Ali, you were mentioning these kind of things earlier. Is it something you are doing currently, or how can we really improve this pre-stay, for example, and avoid cancellations or other stuff?
Yeah, I think what I'm thinking about now is, I think the guest has had a significant how to cancel bookings, and this is really something that we need to really take hold of and see if we can reframe what that actually means to the guest. So if you look at basically some of the stats in terms of the time between a customer arriving on a hotel website and the actual time of booking, certainly over the lockdown period, that was a much longer time, because there was an element of uncertainty about where people wanted to stay. There was an element of not knowing exactly what that stay would look like, or how well they would be looked after, to Christina's point about safety and security, and that level of communication wasn't quite there yet. But then there would be, in terms of the lead times and from the actual booking date to the arrival date, have also in many cases quite extended, because a lot of people really didn't know when lockdown was going to end. So therefore, there has been this extended time period between the booking date and the arrival date. And however, from our point of view, we've also been very encouraging to guests to say, you know, we don't want you to be put off booking, so we're going to remove all of our constraints and make all of these bookings totally flexible and not prepaid, cancelable up to the day of arrival, which means that you're fundamentally sitting on this big bucket of non-confirmed reservations. So effectively, those reservations are not there until the guest has stayed. You know, they're not really, they're uncommitted. And there must be something that we can do digitally to start communication with the guest. And this is something that I spoke to Frank Reeves about in a recent webinar that he was running for the Avio Digital Academy. They're doing quite a lot of work in this area, but I think it's more about the concept of how we reframe in consumers' minds what a cancellation actually means to us, and how we can encourage them to get a better relationship with us, and allow them to fundamentally create, or allow ourselves to create some kind of relationship whereby we either offer an upsell, or either just say to the guest, at the moment your booking is not yet fully confirmed because you have a cancelable booking. If how much, or what would it take for me to encourage you to actually change your terms and conditions to a non-cancelable booking? What can we give you to make that difference and to make that change? So really it's looking, and if you look at it from GM's point of view, or financial controller's point of view, or even a revenue manager's point of view, if you look at that whole bucket of risky reservations, like how much would you really spend to try and convert that? And I think there's a way of also reframing in our heads as well. So there's two senses of reframing. One, customer cancellation in their own heads. It's not, why we need to be able to encourage customers to confirm, and there's time to do that between the book date and the arrival date. And secondly, how much would we as hotels invest in fundamentally changing that bucket from unconfirmed to confirmed? So it's a huge area, and I think we have an opportunity at the moment to really do something about that. I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, I agree. There's quite a lot of things to be done to reassure, as we were saying, the whole time during this period, but also like helping them to visualize how it will look like. So whether it's giving them like an idea of how would be your stay here, or if you come with us, this is the kind of things that you're going to do. But I don't know, if you're a hotel in the countryside, for example, what about booking your spa? What about booking, I don't know, a horse riding, all those kind of things, which are easy to do in reality. So if you don't have a CRM tool, well, you can still send an email or give a call to the guest. And it's just like, how do we make sure that we keep this relationship? Yeah. So yeah, it's not going to be digital, but you know what? It's by you can still personalize the customer journey a little bit more. So maybe let's take a step back, because we talked a lot about analyzing the data, knowing your customer a little bit more. But what kind of tool can we use currently, and can a revenue manager use in order to have more information about their guests, and being able to then inform the digital team, or if you are both the digital and the RM team, like know exactly what's needed and take actions from there?
I think for sure it's definitely Google Analytics is one. It's the biggest one we all know. Google is constantly changing. If you don't have a Google My Business page, it's very easy to set one up. You can actually do it by doing a pin drop on your website or on your location. You're able to go from there. We can actually, in a few weeks' time, we'll probably have a proper conversation about how to do that. I know we did mention it in the past when Benedict was actually with us as well. Google Analytics has so many good tools there that you're able to look into. You're able to see where the business is coming from, turnaways, location, age, demographic, absolutely everything. And it's really, really cool. Google are very good with what they do. They're very good in giving training to people. So if you're a revenue manager who's not quite sure about the digital word just yet, check out their digital garage. That's where you can get full accreditation in Google Analytics. We've been kind of saying this a lot all the way through Revenue Hacks this year. This summer is like, go do it. It's free. It takes a while. It's only 36 modules. It's not scary, but it's so insightful, and it will open your mind completely to the world of digital, 100%. And Google also do a lot of online trainings. They also do in-person trainings in their head offices. So it's a great way of actually getting to see what Google's head office looks like, and having a nose around Google when you go to these digital garage meetings. I'm prone to going to them here in Ireland in the Foundry. Oh my God, wow. Not great coffee, but conversations are always really, really good. Yeah. And I think looking at your own website as well, see what the booking abandonment is like. That is so important. It's to see where you're losing business and why. And if you don't actually analyze your own website, or you don't have the tools to do it and someone else, get them to send you over your analytical pages so that you can do it, so you can see what special offers are working for you. What's your imagery content like? We've touched on this the whole way through Revenue Hacks. Imagery, your content, it can't be stale. This is something you need to be optimizing all the time, and it makes sense to be optimizing all the time. And then on social media, you're able to see your little analytical stuff, especially on LinkedIn or on Facebook. You're actually able to see little analytic reports that you're able to pull off to be able to see it. We look at everything a lot. In our office in particular, you know, the likes of engagement on Google, only because everyone is using Google now, especially as a price shopping tool. So we've got no choice but to use it, and we're able to kind of go from there. I don't know what you guys have used though in the past, or what you guys are currently using in your roles.
Yeah, I think Google is key. Clearly, you need to know how it works, and it can give you a lot of, like, even if you're not a massive guru of Google, you can still see where business is coming from, how long people are looking at your hotel, what's the conversion, how much value do they spend, and suddenly you'll have maybe some basic information like, oh, I've got a few guests from Australia, and actually they're staying for a longer time, or actually they're always, I don't know, checking in on a Sunday night. Well, that's amazing. So, and it's just like, how do you use this information? Maybe you're not going to use everything, but at least this is something that you can use to try to attract some other people. So there are some tools like, so yeah, Google definitely. You have Hotjar, for example. That's a basic stuff that digital teams are using, like where people are clicking on your website. So you can have like a heat map showing you where people are looking, and suddenly you realize, well, my special offers, actually they're hidden somewhere. Nobody's ever clicking on it. So yeah, it's small things like that that you can definitely use to help understand better your customer. And then you have the likes of the new systems like Optimend, where it helps you to read Google's data and then target specific customers. So you're going to give why not giving different offers to different people in different regions? Like there's maybe no need to give a discount for a one-night stay for someone coming, I don't know, from Japan if you're based in the UK, but maybe they would need something extra, or you know that they're more into spending in F&B, so then you're going to do an F&B offer. So there are some small tools like that. Learning from Google and then using the small tools or whatever tools you have at your different levels to improve your business. Yeah. Stop talking.
I was just about to add, I mean, not so much on the analytics side, but I think also from, obviously there's Google is doing a lot in this space anyway, but the Google hotel ads, if we coming on to kind of like what tools are available to us, certainly Google is now with the hotel ads product pushing customers further down that the funnel, down that customer journey, and providing far more qualified customers to websites. And I think it also provides probably a far better opportunity for hotels at the moment to consider using hotel ads, or sort of effectively a meta search provider, which probably in the past for a single property would have been a little bit too difficult to contemplate, either technically or financially. But I think there's a lot of evidence to show that the level of qualification from Google basically providing the hotel booking tool at the point of inquiry, if you like, is something that is really super powerful, and it's definitely watch the space with that. But much more opportunity, I think, for hotels to work with that area and look at the analytics at that point of the customer journey. So
yeah, there we go. I absolutely agree with everything just mentioned. If I may add also, for me, it's really important to understand where the business is dropping off, where on the website is not converting actually, and then pushing and changing, tweaking. It's a small tweaks, but actually they will make some big results and changes. Another for me big thing is get the basics right. I mean, you know, I cannot underestimate the value of getting the website right, the images, the descriptions, the videos, you know, small things again, but they make a big difference in a customer journey. Gabby just asked us the questions about chatbots. I'm a big fan of any kind of apps, mobile apps, chatbots. I think they all have a place and they make customer journey better. And this is also great opportunities for the upsells, you know, whether guests are already staying in the hotel, whether it is pre-arrival as well. I mean, pre-arrival emails, post-stay emails, you know, check-in journey. It's all can be done with support of technology. And that is, every single step is an opportunity to either convert the guest, what Alice talked about, you know, those not guaranteed bookings, or then to upsell. I think I see it as the basics. It needs to be done correctly. Get it right, and there will be huge revenue opportunities straight right there.
I have to agree with Olga. Chatbots are sexy tech, if you want to put it that way. But also when they're utilized right, they work 110%. You need to have someone though that's powering behind it and giving the correct information to it to actually work, for sure. There's no point investing in something like that, or WhatsApp for Business, and having it sitting on your PMS when you're not having the correct information being shared with the customer and being able to utilize the information correctly so that you can convert that booking and upsell as best you can. There's so many different upsell tools on the market at the moment. I know one particular one has done a huge deal with a lot of PMSs and groups in regards to, like, because of COVID, they thought it was a great way of getting in. A lot of the groups have 3 and 4 months free trial on it, which is quite cool. It's a great way of getting yourself out there. But let's see how their engagement goes in the hotels, and let's hope they use it for the right way so that people can sign up with it. But chatbots, way the future, for sure.
Yeah, it's also, yeah, it's clearly improving the guest experience. Also, you go faster. It's more clear probably for the customer. It talks different languages, so it's just those kind of things that are quite important for guests. I think we sometimes forget to put ourselves in the customer's shoes, basically, and it's what do I need as a customer, and what do I expect now as the norm? Basically, I need to be informed way before my arrival of what's going to happen, etc. I want to be guided, basically, and I think that's what we need to always remember. Map this customer journey, and not only for your web business, because yes, that's important, but let's still remember that a lot of hoteliers don't have 80% of guests that are coming direct on the brand website. So, but it doesn't mean that we cannot talk to them to the other guests in a digital way. There are some ways. We have, for most of them, their email addresses, or at least for a short period of time. So we need to use that, I think. Yeah. Any other points on that? Or maybe because we already talked about chatbots, that's kind of like the new digital, if we can talk it like mention it like that. What about AI or virtual reality? All of that, that's kind of the new digital word.
I'm getting excited.
Point of view?
I definitely think you guys know, I spoke about it yesterday, Google and Alexa have been able to book hotel rooms. That is going to be super, super cool when it eventually does happen. I keep asking my Google every day about hotel prices in Dublin or hotel prices in London, just to see if it's actually getting there yet. Hasn't got there. It was supposed to launch about 2 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, on Google Home. I know Alexa in the US can actually book your hotels for you, because obviously everything is linked with your email and whatever. I definitely think that's going to be super cool. I think virtual reality, we've seen this kickstarted that a few years back when Google started doing their tours, the 360 tours, and that kind of allowed the hotel to shine in a way for the guest to kind of see what it's like overall, the property. I think they've died out, but I think what's next on the cards is an actual virtual reality tour, for sure, for a guest, but it has to be done on your website. If you haven't got one linked on your website, maybe consider doing it now. It's something some hotels were doing a few years back, but never really kind of took it to the next level. And now, as we said, it's about Instagram stories, TikTok stories, all these different things that you can show and stand out from everyone in regards to virtual reality. And I think how people shop and how they look at rates and look at value over the next time will change as well. It won't be just the meta searches and the PPCs. It will also be, what you guys are doing. And Susanne touched on this last week. I know I touched on it a few weeks back, and we've all mentioned it. It's about how you buy things, and almost like personalized pricing will come in the future as well with digital marketing. That will be super cool. I can't wait for that. But it kind of adds to the value of the guest, especially if they're putting a lot of different things into the basket. It's almost like, as we said last week, going to Tesco's and buying your shopping and getting discounts as you buy your shopping. Not that I want to say that, sorry, Ali, but I hate discounting room revenue as well. But it's nice to give that little bit back to the customer, in particular in these times, that we're able to entice them to spend more in ancillary revenue to boost up our F&B or boost up our spa at this time.
Yeah, I think certainly the what's on the horizon is really exciting, and I think it's great that some of the more repetitive tasks we can see are being replaced by chatbots, definitely. And as you say, they need to be managed. And there's some use of AI at the moment, which is also coming to fruition in terms of really improving that guest journey. So if a guest revisits a website after they've done some initial exploring, then the pages of the information that's served back to them is now more relevant and more tailored to the initial inquiry, for example. So that's lovely to see. It would be great if we could make that customer journey from an experience point of view, the same type of experience that we'd want to have guests have at the hotel. You know, it would be great to be able to reflect that. And I don't think we're not there yet, but there's certainly, you can see it happening, which is fantastic. So AI, definitely learning all about our guests and what they want. That's superb. I see the role of revenue managers changing because of that, but I don't see the role necessarily disappearing in any one way. I just think it means that we just need to step up and be very confident about the different types of tools that we have available to us and what they will do for us at any one time.
Yeah, the role is becoming bigger and bigger, doesn't it? We need to know about the sales, marketing, and digital and technology, and the list goes on. I think it may take a little bit longer with all this AI to catch up, but I think hotels are on the right track, and more hotels trying to adopt the new technology. And actually, I think COVID-19 kind of spurred that a little bit faster change as well. I was thinking that with social media, potentially, I think some hotels or most of the hotels are missing the trick that it doesn't have to be done by marketing team or e-commerce team. You know, we all have employees, we have colleagues, and if we're passionate about product and services we provide, we are ambassadors of that particular hotel or brand, and we all can share and impact someone else's buying behavior. So for me, I think it's tackle this as a whole group, as a hotel, and that, you know, you'll reap the results back.
I think we just had to mention as well about retargeting before you jump into it. I think there's a lot of tools out there, but you can actually utilize your CRM 100% for retargeting. That's what your whole database is there for, to be able to use it. If the people have opted into marketing, you can do that. You can also do your paid ads, that kind of Google ads and all these different things that sync in with cookies, you know, and that retarget the guest and is constantly in the reminder. I think it's kind of, I recommend them in a way, but also in a different, I kind of prefer to stay away from them, only because I know what it's like. You know, I get so many emails every day and you're just constantly closing out, whereas some people actually like to have that constant reminder. So I think it's about playing, who are you trying to target when you're doing these, because these can be quite expensive as well. If you're not doing it yourself and you're paying someone else, or you're paying Google to do these retargeting, it can be expensive. So know who you are trying to target, know the area that you're trying to look for, whether it's a domestic or international or a certain age bracket, and getting that granular information before you actually go and you do it. There's no point in immersing 200, 300 pounds into something right now if you're not quite sure how it's going to pay off. You really need to look into the data first and then go from there when you're doing retargeting, especially at this time of the world where cost is everything. We're being looked at for every penny we spend.
Yeah, certainly it's a case of going into analytics and, as you say, Khristina, just really looking at the potential into day of arrival as to what's likely to convert and what's not likely to convert. And it goes back to where people come from, booking lead times, the likelihood of them converting. So certainly, so for example, people coming from, or previously coming from different countries, the likelihood that their booking or their visit to your website was likely to convert would be slightly higher. And certainly the commitment would be higher. So yeah, it's having an understanding of where, if you're going to retarget, who should you retarget and who you like to get the best return on investment from at any one particular time.
Yeah, I think like anything in digital, it's really about testing. Like you need to test.
Yeah,
you can read as much data as you want, but you need to test. And that's why a lot of companies have actually A/B testing, for example, on their own website, or then you're going to do 2 campaigns and it's going to be an A/B test also. So it's quite, don't be afraid to test, and yeah, you'll fail sometimes, but the learnings that you'll get from that is going to be quite interesting.
I think as well, I just thinking back to what Susanne was saying yesterday, I think it's important for people in hotels to actually realize that agencies can make themselves look more attractive than you. So, you know, although you're going to be investing loads of money into your system and into your designs and everything, just remember how agency do their digital marketing is completely different. They have a lot more money behind them in a lot of cases, but also they've got a lot of kind of smart people working in the background. So if you're only one person and you're trying to optimize everything yourself and you're working with even just a small niche team, try to focus on the outside in rather than the inside out. So you're taking your small bit of analytical information that you have, but you're also looking at it from the customer point of view, as we all said at the start, because agencies look at it from a holistic point of view, whereas we always kind of tend to look at it with goggles, or you just want to kind of be blindsided by the fact that we're just looking, this is what I want, this is the end return. Sometimes the end return won't always work out that way, but you just need to look from the customer side in to be able to optimize a lot more as well. Because again, we're all facing the world where we're up against big agencies as well at the same time.
I think it also comes down to, not just particularly retargeting, but also to your point, Khristina, just trying to make sure that that any digital team or agency team that you're working with clearly differentiates between the transactional work that they do, so basically conversional work versus brand. And I think at the moment the interest is very firmly pointed towards transactional, but actually there's also a need for the reassurance that we can deliver to brands, from the brand to the customer. So it's getting that balance right, but certainly just making sure that if you're new to digital and you haven't run digital marketing campaigns before, or you've not been engaged with a digital team, is really understanding exactly what they're telling you in terms of their stats, because it could be easy to lose yourself in that, in the fantastic results from a brand engagement versus the results that you actually really need from transactional, where you're trying to fill the gaps in a forecast. So really having an understanding and not allowing, I think Anna commented earlier on today, she said, she's seen a successful campaign basically selling out a lost leader whilst the revenue manager saw their RevPAR disappear. And that basically is kind of like just not understanding what you're dealing with as a revenue manager. So you have to be really super careful in terms of what you're doing.
I think it's true, and especially because I'm just looking now, the role of the revenue manager, we've always said is evolving, it's changing. The revenue title isn't there anymore. If you looked at 1990s, go back to 1990s, 20 years ago, revenue management never really existed. It actually happened in 1972, and that's when the airlines done it, and they sold it to Marriott. And then went from there, 90s, that's when everyone copped on. And then it was into 2000s, that's when revenue managers became a title. And that's when we became masters of the dark arts, as Susanne says. We're still learning, we're still evolving, but now we're becoming also more commercial leaders, as we all mentioned before. We've seen, and we mentioned this about commercial titles for revenue managers, we've actually seen 1 or 2 jobs go up online with that kind of digital strategist type person involved in the title. And I do think that's what it's going to be. And I think we now more than ever need to take it upon ourselves to actually learn these tools. For sure. And if you haven't, dive into them. As Ali, it's about learning and listening and asking questions. Ali is correct. I remember sitting in my first meeting many years ago with Frank Reeves, believe it or not, Navio, strangely enough, when I was working in a hotel, and they were going through all the stuff with digital marketing. It was my first revenue job, and I remember sitting there kind of going, oh my God, what does all this stuff mean? I know what PPC and SEO means, but what is everything in between? And how do we, bridge the gap? How do we go from there? Are we better off doing certain things and not doing other things? And that comes down to testing. And that's where you kind of need to say, we're going to plunge this amount of money into it, and we'll read the results after that. And you're constantly checking the results. You mightn't get an instant result, but you're monitoring every 7 days, 14 days, 30 days. You can't expect immediate results with a lot of these things as well. If you look at the likes of Booking.com or the OTAs, they put it on and then take it off. They put it on and then take it off. And they do it based on time zones, demographic, and different types of customers and the IP addresses. But they do leave a lot of these on for maybe 2 to 3 days. Then when a revenue manager or a hotel spots something, they'll take it back off and they'll do it somewhere else again. But that's how they do it. They're able to see the results. Now, they're totally different to how we operate. They're massive operations. They've got teams specific, just designed to do that stuff, but it's a great way of going forward that we learn from them as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely echo comments. Sorry, I can definitely echo comments what Thomas Finn exactly said, that the role is very much commercial. And I was watching one of his episodes today. It's exactly the same. That role is very much commercial. I think it's very clear to we all agree that digital cannot be neglected right now by revenue directors. It's absolutely have to emerge and merge them together. So yeah, we have to embrace it, definitely, to reap the results.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So if we need to wrap up, basically, I'm conscious of time here. So should we say that the new RM needs to be more curious, and they need to learn about digital, not being scared of it, not being scared of testing, and communicating more with the team. I mean, that's something that we kept on saying, but put yourself into the customer's shoes and try to understand what's needed and communicate about where do you also need business, right?
Totally.
Cool. All right. So when is the next revenue digital manager? We're waiting for this new job offer. Okay. Thank you very much all for joining us today. Thank you to the three of you to participate into this panel today. And next week is going to be another revenue hacks about sales tips. So please feel free to share any tips that you have before, so we can talk about it during the session. And we'll see you next week then. Thank you.
Thanks.